Kia ora koutou, no mai haere mai. Welcome to HR Chats with me, Terada, where we discuss all things HR. Today, 'tis the season for it, wellness and wellbeing. Talking to Jane Kennelly, GM of Wellbeing for Skills Consulting Groups. You may be thinking, Jane Kennelly, that name sounds familiar. Well, she is a veteran of the HR industry, the founder of Frog Recruitment. She's been a thought leader and a regular commentator in the HR space and across the world of work for many years. And in moving from Frog Recruitment to a new role as General Manager of Wellbeing with Skills Group, she has some interesting insights to share on the place that wellbeing plays in today's workplace. Hello, Jane.
Kia ora, Terada. And
Kia
first
ora.
question I
Hey,
should ask you is, how are you?
look, I'm
How are you?
a little hyped up. I've not yet made the transition from the kind of summer period of doing various things into this new year, really. So I'm halfway through renovating things. I feel I'm entering this year a little distracted in a way. It-
Well, you are not alone,
mm.
I have to
I
say.
also feel, that, and look, I mentioned this if anyone's been listening to this podcast, that actually that this late January, early February kind of time frame was going to be a point where people coming into 2021 were going to think it's going to be great, and then they were going to be hit with the realization that COVID was continuing, that travel bubbles are continuing, that things are not what they seem, and that still the country's on tenterhooks. Difficult times, Jane.
Very much so, very much so. And in fact, that wonderful kind of stop and start into something fantastic and wonderful has, sadly, it's caught a lot of people by surprise. So it's no wonder that anxiety levels are still going through the roof, and they're triggered by things very quickly. So, let's just hope, though, we can hold it together in better shape this year than we did last year, because we've learnt a lot, and and there are things to put in place.
I mean, how are you? Because you're dealing with, the well-being of a whole lot of people, of encouraging other people to bring well-being into their workplaces. Does it make you anxious?
Well, funnily enough, I think 2020 was like a significant step change for a lot of organisations. And so I actually feel, I think excited is the wrong word, but I feel really encouraged that organisations have got an opportunity to really look at how they bring their people to work each day and the support that they provide them. So if anything, I feel like we're growing up, and that this has been a wonderful catalyst to create some really significant change in people's work environments.
Let's address the word well-being. It's popped up. It's probably, you would know, it's been perhaps around for a while, and you see it often replacing, the term health and safety, which has a lot of connotations, even, regrettably, even today. And we're seeing it move into health and well-being. What does it mean? What does it mean for organizations? What does it mean for employees? Is it just a lovely, nice to have word?
Well, look, I mean, we've got World Health Organization definitions of well-being, and we have Harvard Business has one as well. But look, I think really at the end of the day, what it means is it's enabling people to do a good job today and tomorrow. And so if we just hold on to that as like a really simple yet compelling thought, what it means is that we are making sure that our environments are sustainable and comprehensive places for people to come and work at each day. I mean, whether they're working remotely or coming into an office, we have these individuals as employers in our midst for 8 hours plus sometimes a day. And there's a responsibility to make sure that we really look after them. So well-being means a lot of things, but I'll tell you what, one thing that has happened is that it is now at the seat of the table as far as leaders are concerned. They have to acknowledge and take note. It's important.
Did COVID obviously sort of emphasize that even more? And we saw that notion of well-being extend beyond the workplace, beyond the employee, into the homes and communities, into whānau, and that wider thing where, people became a de facto sort of information source. They made sure that everyone was okay. Is there any pushback from, I guess, employers to say, look, it's not really core business. We just want people to turn up, and we're having enough issues with our own situation.
Yeah, look, maybe that's, in my world, that's probably an outmoded kind of thinking style. However, that's the opportunity. The opportunity is to really take people along the wellbeing journey so that they can see the importance of the responsibility that they have in order to make people feel really safe at work. And, I've been having great debates lately, although I must confess I haven't had much of a contribution in the debate to make at the moment, but around the topic of psychological safety at work, social safety. And I'm going, this is a really interesting thing. It's been around for a few years, but now it's right to the fore. And it's something that individuals are talking about inside our businesses across the country. And it's needed. It's good, healthy, holistic, ethical business with integrity. And I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to stand for that type of stuff in today's environment?
Exactly. If I was to say to you, we're at a dinner party and I say psychological safety, what does that mean?
Well, really simply put, again, it just means that people can turn up to work and feel safe there. So it is about bullying, it's about harassment, it's about policies against racial discrimination. It's about making sure that people really behave in an appropriate fashion. And also, so it's emotional, it's mental, and it's physical safety at work. And each of those is actually quite a deep dive as far as topics of conversation are concerned, but it wraps it all up and it says, look, we care enough to make sure that you are able to perform your job really well, which means actually we as a business will perform really well financially. So there is a return on investment here. By making sure that you are feeling safe. And I think the idea that people leave part of themselves at the door each day is kind of almost outmoded as well, because so much happens in the work, at home. I mean, if you think about some of the trauma that can occur in our home lives and the critical incidents, and it's very hard to shut them off when you turn up to work each day. So it's understanding that that whole person needs to be well represented and cared for. And given we can do that well, we will prosper and grow as a company, both on a happiness scale perhaps, but definitely on a profitability scale.
Yeah. Look, we're at the same dinner party. We're having a conversation. You've asked me what I do. I say as little as possible. And you tell me that you are the GM of Wellbeing. And I say, what's that? What does that mean? What do you do? Are there others like you? How does this go? Have you had this conversation at a dinner party where you've said it and someone's given you a blank stare?
Yeah, I sure have. I think they think that I've become a health practitioner, which is not quite the case at all. But look, in my recruitment career, I had this wonderful notion around healthy workplaces. So, and people feeling good. So, to be involved as General Manager of Wellbeing means that I am running several practices that are involved with people feeling good about the job they're doing today. And as I said, tomorrow. So, I'm involved with a practice called InStep. And InStep provides EAP services. And that at the dinner party, people normally go, what are they? And an EAP service is an employee assistance program that an employer makes available to their employees so that if for any reason at all they feel that they need to reach out to get some type of support, they can phone a number and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and be utterly assured of confidentiality and someone to help them. We connect them with professionals in the market that will help them. And on the other side of the business, I'm involved with a practice called CDL. And that's all about helping people when they've lost their jobs, So they're facing redundancy. And so it's a whole range of activities that can happen that, again, an employer sponsors for their employees rather than just push them out the door sadly and say goodbye, but offer no help. It's a service that will help them actually get their next job. So both are very worthy parts of the employment industry, actually, and I'm delighted to be involved.
Yeah. Hey, look, just as a sort of an incidental question, you were mentioning there that, that wonderful workplaces and when you were with Frog Recruiting and setting that up, did you ever turn any clients down and say, you know what, I've had a look at this workplace and I don't feel comfortable putting someone in there?
Yeah. Look, the short answer is yes, we have. I mean, not all business is good business. Um, I have I can certainly won't tell you who the organisation is, but only recently heard of an organisation where 25 people left in the same week. So, from a recruitment perspective, there's 25
Yeah.
vacancies that need to be filled. From my perspective, there's a real problem there, and it's best to walk away and leave them to sort that out.
Because I guess that is a sort of a responsibility of the recruitment and HR world as well. If they're going to be walking the talk of well-being and whatnot, to say actually, I think that this is a bit of a toxic situation. Can we help you before we bring people in?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're often we don't become kind of missionaries on a trying to convert the world and everyone's thinking um, as we go about our work. We are very good as an industry in engaging people in a way that they haven't necessarily thought before. So when someone used to say, "Look, I need a woman who's 25 to 28 years old to do this job," we are very artful in the way that we navigate a conversation like that. We are supremo. We should win awards actually in the way we do things around those types of conversations. But the good news is things have matured. It is about the right person for the job. There's all, and we're very good at introducing people to, thinking that they may have been confronted by previously, and are open to adopt. But occasionally you come across an environment and you go, you know what, this is not fair. We're going to put people at risk if we present them to this organisation and they are hired, knowing that actually there is a real problem there. So we are very careful about that.
Likewise, there'll be organisations that say they have wellbeing programs and they're looking after people. You scrape the surface and really it's just a little bit of lip service. How do you have those conversations? Are people really bringing the whole thing on board? Or as a lot of employees may think, look, they're just ticking boxes.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a tick box mentality, but that it's a start, isn't it? It's a start of a checklist. I look at it that way. A whole lot of boxes to tick, um, and there's a maturity that is required in the whole understanding of it all. It's not going to happen overnight, but the volume of inquiry we have fielded this year has been significant, and alongside that, Te Radar, we have fielded. Even yesterday, when I was with our Wellington team, two individuals who phoned that were considering committing suicide. People are under duress, and so for organisations to understand that it's more than just a yoga app on the phone is a big step, and it's an important step. I mean, fitness is great, but that mental, emotional, and physical well-being at work is actually really primary. So when another organisation calls and has had a suicide prior to Christmas, national company, predominantly blue collar workforce, colleagues feeling incredibly uncomfortable because of what's happened and actually unable to necessarily deal with it, so do need support. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the organisation realises that this is a vulnerable workforce. They're working shift work. They're coming off their shifts at 4 a.m. in the morning, or they're starting. They're fatigued. So you can't. Fatigue management isn't a tick box. Fatigue management is a values that's held by the organisation to make sure that their workers are safe. Supporting people when a critical incident happens to one of their colleagues, and indeed to the manager of that individual. It's really important, as is being able to respond to someone who calls with a cry for help. So,
Yeah.
we feel very proud of the work we do, and we are delighted to be working with organisations who feel that pride too.
You can see that, I imagine, in the fact that your role as GM of Wellbeing, that's a leadership role. You've cemented that there to say, look, this is an important position.
Yep, absolutely. And it's popping up. As you said, it was shrouded in sort of the HR department a while ago, and then health and safety started to kind of get more involved from it, particularly the safety perspective, which is crucial. But the well-being side of things is now starting. So a health and safety individual may take on the well-being portfolio as a discrete portfolio of work, or as we're seeing, well-being individuals are now being appointed in large organisations. And contractors are
Because I'm
working
sorry, I was
across
going to
the
say,
range.
it may not necessarily be within the skill base of someone who might be quite adept at assessing health and safety issues. They can go onto a site, for example, and look around and say, well, that's an unsafe practice. This is an unsafe practice. But what are you looking for? What do businesses look for if they're looking to find someone who can harness that role of the well-being person?
Well, it's not unusual that they have a psychology background, that they have an academic background in this particular area. They may be a specialist, as we have on our team, but someone who's completing her master's in sleep deprivation. So that, a very interesting area of study. They will be individuals that may have come from a clinical background, from a health background. So, but there are people that understand that, for example, financial stress for an individual who's not making enough money it's a major. So if you're dealing with people at work who don't know how to manage their budgets, part of the well-being philosophy could be to actually teach budgeting inside the organisation, because that person is worried about how they're going to feed their children, let alone how they're going to take the next call in the customer services area. It is fatigue management, as I've mentioned. It's things like understanding that if a tanker driver hits a motorcyclist and injures them, that tanker driver doesn't just pick themselves up, dust themselves, and drop to drive the tanker confidently the next day. They need intervention. So it's really understanding the psychological impact of an incident like that. It's first responders who, let's face it, in the last couple of years, if we just think of one we all know, which is Whakaari White Island, and what those people must have seen on that particular island with the injuries they've never witnessed before. Wellbeing understands the nature of being able to accommodate that trauma.
I guess it may seem like quite a lot of work for businesses, but I'm looking at the unemployment statistics that were released recently, and almost record levels of low unemployment, not so much Māori and Pacifica. But for employers looking for new staff, it's very, very difficult to find people at the moment. So I guess making your workplace or incentivizing your workplace to be a better place to be is going to pay dividends.
Absolutely. It's part of the bigger conversation as to why people might want to come and work for you. And there'll be a range of things. But I think that duty of care that organisations are now able to show to employees, because we've learned a lot. We all went to the same conference last year. We all learnt the same stuff. We heard the same messages. And a number of organisations have taken it to heart, which is actually really encouraging.
My question then would be, we go to conferences and we hear those messages and then we take them back. And then have you noticed a change in the ability to get a lot of those messages implemented in
Yeah.
workplaces in your conversations with other professionals?
Yeah, so this particular, the big COVID conference was a huge catalyst. So, look, it opened the door to all sorts of things. I mean, I remember dealing with an HR manager last year who absolutely maintained they would never have anyone work from home, because were they really working, you know? And this individual did a 360 and is now a proponent for people working remotely. I think the one thing she's got to probably watch out for is the staff member who drags in the barbecue table from outside to use it as their desk. I mean, so there are some other issues that, come from being safe at work and your work environment. But isn't that fascinating? It's absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful. So we have triggered something significant in the way that we have moved from being almost draconian in some of our work practices to really highly attuned to modern world, and technology is supporting us.
How do people monitor well-being at home? Where is the line between care and intrusiveness? It's obviously on an individual basis, but it's very difficult when your staff are remote, when they're working from home. Not everybody wants to or can, and there's stresses and issues there as well.
Yeah. Look, I think you're right. I mean, the blur between professional lives and personal lives is just significant. A study we did last year showed that people were working an extra 40 minutes a day on average when they were working from home. So it was like a 9-hour workday. But organisations do things. I mean, I'm very fortunate to be working for the Skills Group, for example, and the CEO there, Gary Fissenden is his name. I mean, he is highly critical of people and actions this who are sending emails to their teams at night time. Like, it's just not the go. And if you do that, Gary nicely but firmly says, hey, look, we don't do that around here. So some of
Yeah.
that respect is coming through, which is good to see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a night emailer, but just by the nature of my work. And if I have someone email me back, I'll say, hey, look, don't email me at night. This is not an important kind of thing. So again, that's personal responsibility to a certain extent. But again, a company understanding a company policy, people will be asking questions now as well. What is the well-being policy of these
Yeah.
companies for which I'm being recruited?
Yes, they sure are. And they're wise too, because they want to know that they're going to a safe place. Leave a cushy number, go to something unknown. You want to know that if there's a problem, there's something there that can support them. And, a phrase I heard the other day to Radar was that not everyone last year was at home making soda bread while COVID was on. There were some really stressed individuals, and depression, as we know, became significant, and it was pronounced at Christmas. And so I think from an employee perspective, it is a great question to ask at the interview stage. What do you do to help your people? And if the answer is we've got free yoga on a Wednesday, I mean, that's lovely. Don't get me wrong, but there's a bit more to it than that particular response.
I'm more of a Pilates man myself. Give
Are
me
you
some
on the
examples of
reformer?
best.
Are you on the reformers?
Well, when
Or are
I
you
say
just a
I'm more
mat
of a
guy?
Pilates man, I'm aspirational
Oh,
Pilates,
good.
in that I've thought about looking for a course. I've made the mental effort to think maybe I should stretch more. Give me some examples of best practice. What have you seen that's made you go, gosh, that's good?
Well, I think first and foremost, it starts at the top. Leadership has got to own it. It isn't something that is just aspirational. It is something that's not optional. It is something that actually is on the table. And it starts from creating a strategy. And so organizations that actually look at the whole picture, it may be that they have to build it through building blocks, a bit like Lego. You can't bite it all off at once. But best practice is, I believe, organizations that are showing on those three levels of emotional, physical, and mentally, on the mental level, that there are systems in place that can start to support people when they're really feeling that they need to reach out. And that's just step one. I mean, we're doing some work at the moment. We have at schools a Māori social responsibility team. How gorgeous is that? We've got wellbeing and we have that as well. And so we're connecting them with the Māori advisory team with one of the large councils in the country. And together they are going to develop a wonderful program that actually talks to the Māori in this very large organisation around how they can deal with some of their extreme situations, mentally often, but it could be with whānau, in a way that they feel is appropriate for them. And I feel incredibly excited about that. And all hail, Mexican wave to the council that's thinking so holistically. It's wonderful.
Examples of bad practice where you look at it and guess the building blocks have been put in place, but things aren't working for some reason.
Look, I just think it's that tick box thing again, Teresa, where, we've done it. We've got that in place. What else do we need? Knowing that you've actually got people, for example, as we mentioned before, who are working on shift work, and you've got a high injury rate. So surely at some point those two meet in the middle and we go, oh, actually there's more here than there's a lot more here that we should be doing. I think the wellness culture, the wellness environment, it's going to take a while. So I don't think we should beat organisations up who are trying. I think we go tick, good on you, but there is more to this. And all they really need to do is speak to an individual that is able to help take them on the journey that could last a couple of years, but at least it's the stepping stones to the right pathway.
It does seem very positive. You've got all of the work being done in wellbeing. I've just done some work at a industry training organisation, and you're meeting people, and their whole thing is we're not only just training these people. I'm not going to say young people, these people, not only to do their job, but we're fostering them a real sense of aspiration that this is just a stepping stone to something else. Are we, on the whole, do you think you're a recruiter? You've seen all of this. Are we on the right path? Are we making a better little world down here?
Yeah,
Do you
look,
think?
I ardently believe that to be the case. I think that we have got an opportunity to really significantly improve our world down here, and showcase how wonderful that can be to other parts of the globe. I mean, we've got global citizenship happening down here that you probably haven't even checked in with. We've got something that happened last year that I think helped even the playing field, was that whole ageism in the workplace. COVID kind of leveled the playing field a bit because we all suddenly felt it was okay to ask questions when we were stuck at home and couldn't get on our Zoom call. So I think as an aspiration, the government showed it with their wellbeing budget, right? They started to say, we want more than just, we want sustainable business and we want profitable business. And we think we can get there by making people feel really important and encourage them to have aspirations for themselves. So it's a pretty powerful place to start from.
It is a pretty powerful place to start from. Anything else you'd like to add around this, whether the concept of well-being or any difficulties you see coming up in the next couple of months?
Look, I think it's just taking that first step. It's a bit like getting your exercise regime underway. First you've got to put on your track shoes. So it's just that first step, and it's reaching out even just to inquire and have a discussion around what could be a logical, sensible way to start the conversation that is affordable and fit for purpose as far as that organisation is concerned. Being open to having these discussions. I hope that, given that that's the case, and it certainly looks like that is the case this year, from what we have seen, there is great interest for all the right
Yeah.
reasons by organisations. So it's heartening.
And affordable is a very relative term, isn't it? I remember doing some stuff with an agricultural organisation, and those farms that put on a crock pot of soup or stew in the morning during kind of the spring calving when they know that employees can't eat properly. It makes a huge difference. So it's people thinking about those little things, I suppose, and then just almost constantly looking out for things. Do you have any places where people can go? Is there a Facebook group of best practice for well-being, or picking up little tips, putting them somewhere and saying, hey, we do this?
It's really, look, if there isn't, there should be. I must say I've been so immersed in the content of the world of wellbeing that I'm not a particularly good resource in that department at the moment. But by all means, if anyone wishes to contact me, by the time they do, I'll be game on to point them in the right direction.
Marvelous. What do you do? Do you have anything that you do that gets you through?
I'm used to be an art teacher years ago, many years ago, and so the world of art and culture from an artistic perspective is just my gig. I just love that stuff. So I'm about to embark on painting lessons, which may seem, it's a bit like you with Pilates. The thought is there. I've even been given a gift of painting lessons, but I've just got to buy that brush and get moving.
Yeah. I'm going to make it more complicated. What are you going to do? Watercolors, acrylics, pastels?
Mixed media, but incredibly Jackson Pollockish, I think, at this stage. There's a lot to get out.
Great. Because look, if the last sort of year has sort of taught us anything, or hopefully taught us anything, it's that, those things that you always meant to do, now is the time to do them, because who knows what's going to happen in a little while.
That's exactly right. And, it can be even something as lovely as writing a note to someone and posting it in the mail, just these, gosh, it just makes a difference. So I'll tell you what I have done there. I will tell you, I have engaged an artist friend of mine to create a whole card series for me so that I can do just that whenever I want to. So I'm supporting New Zealand Post.
There will be businesses out there that have someone within their staff whose side hustle may be doing cards. And then finding that person and saying, hey, look, we need cards. Why don't we contract you to do cards for all of our clients? So you've increased the satisfaction and well-being of that employee, and then people are getting a card that has been crafted specifically from a business. It is those little things, isn't it? We can bring all of that into the whole sense of what well-being means.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, and on another topic, another day, the side hustle is really interesting. What an explosion. Isn't it fantastic? I'm just in awe of what people are producing. Wonderful.
And I've seen some of those side hustles, just become phenomenal businesses. And again, it goes down to that sense of joy and passion and admiration. And we're seeing that. Are you seeing in recruiting, just before we go, finally, are we seeing are we on the wave of people reassessing what it is they're doing with their lives? Where are we on that sort of, what's that called, a bell curve of employment change?
Yes, we absolutely are now. When organisations reduced perhaps money last year, the salaries by 20% to 80%, and in conjunction with that, you ended up working on a 4-day working week and not 5, etc. The number of people that started to become clear that they didn't want to work 5 days a week. In fact, the experiment worked so well that they really didn't want to go back to full-time work. So that became very, very relevant in the recruitment industry as people said, I want a part-time job now. I want 4 days. I don't want 5. And that's strong. That is really strong. People having control of their destiny and being able to say, you know what, I managed it for some months. I think I can manage this ongoing. So I'm going to give it a go.
Marvellous, the ever-changing world of the workplace and well-being. Jane Kennelly, thank you very much for your time and this wonderful discussion. All the best with the art. Look forward to a little exhibition. Send me an invite.
Will do, Tereda. Thank you. Kia ora.
Marvellous. Hey, and thank you for listening as well to HR Chats with me, Teresa. If there is anyone you know of that we might like to speak to, any topic that you think, you know what, I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit more about that, then by all means, let us know. The link is on the HRNZ website. From me, for now, that's all. I'm going to go and sign up to my Pilates lessons. I've told you I'm doing it now, so I've got to do it.